Hello and welcome to the Watering Hole. Thanks for checking out this clip. Don't forget to like and subscribe because that'll make the baby Jesus cry, and I know how much you guys love making the baby Jesus cry. And then we have a fourth news story this evening. Sorry.
Given that I'm going to be going to New York and will effectively be unable to stream for a week, I am thrilled that there are more news stories.
That's fair. So this one, for some reason, when I saved it to my little news item saving thingy that I use to make the formats all the same, it gave me a different story. So I had to actually go to AP's website, and then I was playing around with like modifying the website code to make it actually fit better. But the downside of that is now the it looks like this. And like the guy's name is in there, and I don't know, it's all weird. But yeah, so that's why this one looks funny. So yeah, Southern Baptists expel Virginia church for believing women can serve as pastors.
I'm just going to say this one. If you don't think that women physically have the ability to read a fucking book and possibly have better reading comprehension than any other man doing that, you're an idiot, like definitionally. And I recognize there's more. I recognize there's more than just capability in the can women do this particular thing debate. I understand that. I've had friends who were Christian that have tried to weigh in on this, stupidly, mind you. Then those friends ended up not being either not being Christian later or not being the kind of Christian that they were later. This particular one ended up going from Calvinist to Catholic randomly. So I'm sorry. I will never consider this particular debate worth anything more than a sigh and ire. It's just sexism. That's all it is. You can rope it in with a billion different verses from the Bible. You can pretend that it is anything other than what I said.
There's only like 10 verses in the Bible.
In total?
Well, that speak to this issue.
Oh, that's okay. That's different.
But yeah, no, there's like that verse in Timothy. I think there's another one in Romans. It's like, I do not permit a woman to teach or hold authority over a man.
But the one in Romans doesn't even work because the specific situation that Paul was talking about in Romans was because the women in that church were actually conspiring, and it was his way of going like,
okay, Cyrus,
I'm not saying shit's happening, but
Cyrus, if we're going to start taking cultural context into consideration when reading Bible verses, then modern Christianity just basically doesn't exist.
I understand that.
You can't go doing that, Cyrus.
I can though, and I will.
Because like if you're gonna do that, we lose Satan in the Garden of Eden because it's just a snake that talks.
Yeah, because I've made that argument before that's not Satan in the Garden of Eden. I forget who it was. There was a friend of mine that was talking about the Satan thing, and I brought up that's like, that's not really Satan in the garden. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, the only way that you get from that snake in the garden to Satan is going all the way to Revelation and finding.
But even then,
as I crush his head, that old serpent, which was just a generic fucking insult back in that time.
There's also that time when Jesus calls the Pharisees, you serpents, you vipers.
Yeah, it's a generic insult of the time period.
Yeah, but yeah, no, there's a lot of Christianity has to go away if we start looking at actual cultural context. Anyway,
that's not a bad thing.
So it says, even as they prepare to vote on a formal ban on churches with women pastors, that vote happened today. They actually voted against banning those churches. Not by much, like 61% of the SBC voted for banning them, but they needed a 2/3 majority for that to pass, so 61 wasn't quite enough. But yeah, right before they voted to say, yeah, it's okay that churches allow women pastors, they voted to kick out this church for having women pastors. Sorry, I should clarify. I was pluralizing that. It's not women pastors, it's women pastor. So the senior pastor is a dude. The pastor for adult discipleship is a dude. The pastor for missions is a dude. The female pastor they have, guess what her title is?
I couldn't even find out.
Sorry,
I
what'd you
couldn't
say?
even fathom.
Oh, you're close. You're close. My partner over there said women's ministry. It's the pastor for children and women.
Oh, she's got a unique title because it's
So it's like they have a female pastor for women and children, and that was too much for them, so they had to expel them. And then they voted that it's okay for women pastors to exist. So I don't know what the fuck's going on with them internally. And they voted overwhelmingly. So like 6,700 voted to kick them out, and 560 voted to keep them. So like that's overwhelming. That would have passed the 2/3 majority thing, I think. But so here's the thing. They have a woman pastor who is the pastor for women and children, but they affirm that women can serve in any pastoral role, including senior pastor. So that's the issue there, is that they don't think women should be senior pastors.
oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah. So they ejected them from the convention. Now, this church came under scrutiny after the pastor of a neighboring church reported it to the denominational authorities over its having a woman as pastor for children and women. So they actually had someone snitch on them for having a pastor with a vagina.
How dare they?
But it's even like, even if you take the misogynistic verses in the Bible, like it's I do not permit a woman to teach or have authority over a man. She's the pastor for women and children. That should be fine.
That was their way of getting around it.
Yeah. So the vote came after the denomination's credentials committee recommended earlier on Tuesday that the denomination deem the church to be not in friendly cooperation, which is their it's their politically correct, dare I say woke, way of saying they're expelled from our organization. It's weird that the people that are like so anti-woke and so anti-politically correct also have like these, like, instead of just voting that they're no longer one of us, they vote that they're not in friendly cooperation with us, which has the same effect. Doodle-doo subscribed, so thank you for that. I didn't know that I still had subscription things turned on for YouTube, but there it is. Pastoral pagina? Pastgina? Jassa making a portmanteau of it. So then I love this. They say, we find no joy in making this recommendation, but have formed the opinion that the church's egalitarian beliefs regarding the office of pastor do not closely identify with the convention's adopted statement of faith. So you guys being egalitarian doesn't mesh with our statement of faith. Yeah. SBC kick this church out because they're too egalitarian. And like, I don't know. That's just one of those things that like, so from my perspective, it's just like, it's all made up bullshit anyway. But like, if you're going to have people that are paid to do made up bullshit jobs, like, why does it matter what's between their legs?
It shouldn't, but you know, this is 2024. We have to care about that kind of thing.
Ooh, we have a tweet about that as well.
Oh boy, I can't wait.
From Mike Winger, no less. But yeah, so First Alexandria stands before you today as a testament that we can maintain a fruitful partnership with churches that take a different stance on women in ministry, he said. We at First Baptist are advancing the gospel, and we hope that... I don't know why I highlighted that. That's just churchy drivel stuff. Like, I don't think pastor is a job that should exist in the first place. Like, you shouldn't pay a person for nothing, essentially. Like, that is a nothing job. They work 1 day a week. They generally would just regurgitate sermons. Like, you don't really need to write anything original. You can just copy someone else's shit. It's like there's only so much good you can say about the Bible.
Oh,
yeah. Timothy 1 and 2 are forgeries after Paul died. Yeah, I know. Well, wait, wasn't one of them? I don't know. Whatever. I don't know which ones are the authentic Paul passages and which ones aren't. It doesn't matter though, because like to a Christian, like if it's canon in the Bible, then like even if Paul didn't write it himself, it still has accurate teaching that God approves of. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in the Bible. I don't know why the whole forgery issue is basically a non-issue to them, but it is. But yeah, no, like being a pastor is a non-job, and so I don't think it should exist as a paid job. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste of money. But as long as it exists, if there are women that want to do the job, they should have just as much a right to do it as men.
Yeah.
Just because I think the job is stupid doesn't mean I think they should be able to discriminate with it. It's like the same thing with like the Ark Encounter not being willing to hire LGBTQ people. Like they're allowed to discriminate because they are because they're a religious organization. And realistically, like what LGBTQ person would want to work for Answers in Genesis? But at the same time, they're in a fucking nothing town in Kentucky. So you take the job that you can get when you work in such a town. So like, even though it's a shit job with a company that hates you, money is money. Sometimes you need to do what you need to do. Yeah, and they're also worth mentioning is that SBC still has an issue with sexual abuse and just abuse in general, which I have now decided I don't really want to go through all that.
Oh, you've decided
Yeah, no.
that you don't want to deal with Southern Baptists being assholes to women because they want to do the same fake job as them?
Yeah, well, it's not even because of that. It's just women in general for being women. And then Yeah.
Remember that the reason the NIFB and the old IFB had a split was over sexual harassment.
Which one was on the pro side?
Now, see, that's the funny thing. I don't fucking know.
They were both on the pro side. One just thought they should hide it better.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, there. Naramdapa says, I disagree. Not only should LGBTQ people be forbidden from working at the Ark, non-LGBTQ people should be forbidden too. Fair point. But yeah, well, I'm going to call that quits for the story. Just keep in mind that SBC does have a massive sexual abuse problem. It's not quite as bad as the Catholic Church, but it's not that far off, and they have the same issue with when it's found out, it gets covered up rather than reported. So... If the organization you work for actively hides sexual abuse, can you really say that organization speaks on behalf of a benevolent God?
You can say it, you can claim it, because you know they're going to do that no matter what. Whether or not they actually do, though, I mean, that's the part that's really up for question, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention, back to the SBC story, they also, in their vote where they voted against banning churches with women, they also voted to oppose in vitro fertilization, because I guess they don't want their members having children to keep their religion going.